Hey there, fellow deep divers. Ever get this, weird feeling? Like you're being pulled towards something, a purpose you can't explain.
Yeah, like you're meant for a certain path.
Exactly. Even if it doesn't quite make sense.
Right.
Well, today we're diving into James Hillman's The Soul's Code
Oh,
to
interesting.
check out his acorn theory. It tackles that exact feeling.
I love this concept. It really flips the script on how we see our lives and all the things we could do.
Totally. So it's like each of us is born with a little acorn inside.
Yeah. A seed with like a blueprint for who we are and what we're meant to do.
And this acorn, it kind of guides us through life, even if we don't realize it.
That's the idea. It's
Yeah.
often working behind the scenes.
So instead of saying, oh, I'm a writer because my mom read to me every night, Hillman's saying there's something deeper going on,
Exactly. He's challenging that typical focus on how our parents shaped us.
which he calls the parental fallacy.
Right. He uses a really interesting example. Identical twins,
Oh, yeah. Raised in the same environment.
but often end up on totally different paths. So Hillman argues that points to something beyond just upbringing.
Makes me think of those nature versus nurture debates. Is he saying nurture doesn't matter at all?
Not at all. He acknowledges it plays a role,
Right.
but thinks we often give it too much credit. What he's really interested in is what he calls the Daimon.
This inner voice guiding us.
Yeah, like a guiding spirit that's been there from the very beginning, nudging us towards our own unique destiny.
Okay. This Daimon sounds kind of mystical, though. Does Hillman give any, real-world examples of how this acorn or daemon actually plays out?
Oh, absolutely. He's got tons of stories of fascinating people in the book.
Might too.
Well, he talks about the writer Colette. You'd think someone who's going to become a literary giant would love writing as a kid, right?
Right.
But Colette, she actually really resisted it. Intensely.
Oh, wow. So it wasn't all smooth sailing for her.
Not at all. It's almost like her daemon was working through that resistance, pushing her towards her calling, but in this roundabout kind of way.
So it's not always a clear follow your bliss kind of thing.
Nope. Sometimes it can be a lot more complex than that.
Huh. That's so interesting.
Another great example he gives is Yehudi Menuhin, the violinist.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of him.
So as a toddler, he was given this toy violin, and get this, he bursts into tears, demanding a real one
What?
at age 4.
No way.
That's not just a kid wanting a grown-up toy. That's the daemon right there expressing itself. This deep need that just couldn't be ignored.
Wow.
Yeah.
That really challenges the idea that talent is just something you develop with practice, right?
Absolutely. It's like he was born with this pull toward the violin.
That's incredible.
Makes you think about your own childhood, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Were there any, intense interests you had that no one really got? Hillman would say those could be glimpses of your own daemon at work.
Okay, that's a really fascinating thought. I definitely had a few obsessions as a kid that my parents couldn't quite understand.
Exactly.
Like, why is she so into this,
Yeah.
But if this daemon is so important, how come we don't always end up following its lead?
Well, that's where the call comes in. Hillman says the daemon uses these calls to guide us towards our destiny.
Okay.
But they're not always these, booming voices from above. No,
No.
sometimes it's subtle nudges, recurring patterns, maybe even just a feeling of unease when we're not on the right track.
So our intuition's trying to tell us something.
Exactly. Intuition is key to how we experience the daemon's call, according to Hillman.
Interesting.
He compares intuition in things like math and music to intuition in understanding myths, saying they all tap into this deeper knowing, this aha moment that goes beyond thinking things through logically.
Are we talking about those gut feelings then? The ones telling us something's right, even if we don't know why?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Okay.
Those gut feelings could be your daemon trying to get your attention. Like he uses the example of the philosopher R.G. Collingwood, who had this life-changing experience as a kid with Kant's theory of ethics. It wasn't just an intellectual thing for him, it was profound, almost mystical. And that sparked his whole dedication to philosophy.
Wow. So sometimes the call is like a sudden pull towards something, that aha moment.
Right. But other times it's resistance. Remember Colette?
Yeah, and her aversion to writing.
Like she was being pushed away from what she thought she should be doing and then pulled back in by something much stronger.
It's like that bullfighter Hillman talks about, Manilat.
Oh, right.
Tried to avoid bullfighting at first,
Almost like running from his destiny.
but his daemon pulled him back in,
Yeah.
made him one of the greats.
Yeah. And that's what's so interesting about the daemon. It's not always clear cut.
No straight path.
It can work through those roadblocks, detours, forces us to face our fears, and then boom, leads us to our true calling in a way we never expected.
It's almost like the Daimon's playing a game with us. This cosmic hide and seek, leading us towards figuring ourselves out. But seriously, this back and forth, the attraction and resistance, it's fascinating. It really does make you wonder.
It makes you wonder how we even recognize the Daimon's voice.
Yeah, especially if it's working in these subtle, kind of contradictory ways.
Hillman says pay attention to patterns, the interests that keep popping up.
The things we're drawn to.
Exactly, even if they don't fit the mold.
It's like, I always loved writing stories as a kid, but I felt like I had to be more practical. So I studied business. Never really felt fulfilled, though.
That feeling, that unease when something's not quite right, even when it seems logical, could be your Daimon trying to get through. He even calls it exile when we ignore our calling.
Exile? That's intense.
It is, right. It's like living someone else's life.
It makes you think about all the people who feel stuck.
In their jobs, relationships.
Like they're living someone else's life. Is Hillman saying they're all ignoring their Daimon?
Well, it's not always that simple. Lots of things cause discontent. But Hillman's theory gives us a new way to look at it.
A different lens.
Yeah. It encourages us to ask, am I really being true to myself? Or am I trying to fit in a box that's not meant for me?
And how do we even answer that? How do we know if we're on the right track? Is there like a Daimon detector we can use?
Hillman would say it's already inside you. It's about awareness of your inner world, learning to trust your gut and seeing those patterns that point toward your calling.
He talks a lot about mentors too, right?
He does. People who see your potential and can help guide you.
That's like that story he tells about Van Cliburn, the pianist.
Oh, yeah.
Had this amazing mother, recognized his genius when he was young.
But didn't push him into it, right?
Exactly. More like she created the space for his Daimon to, I don't know, come alive.
That's it. Nurturing a spirit, not just raising a kid. That's a true mentor, according to Hillman. Someone who sees and supports that unique spark in you.
And helps you live out your calling. And, he also talks about books as mentors, fictional characters even.
Right.
How many times has a character inspired someone to pursue a certain path?
Totally. It's like those stories become mirrors, showing us what we could be, giving us the courage to follow our own path.
So what's the takeaway for someone listening right now who's maybe feeling lost or unsure? What's the core message Hillman's getting at?
He wants us to reject this idea that our lives are just random, that there's no plan.
Okay.
He thinks there's a deeper pattern, a blueprint we've had since the beginning. And by tuning into ourselves, our intuition, finding the right mentors,
We can align with that blueprint.
and live a life that's not just successful, but truly fulfilling.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So far, we've been talking about the Daimon as this positive force. But what about the flip side? Does Hillman ever talk about when the Daimon goes bad?
That's a great question. And yeah, he does.
He does.
He acknowledges that it can become what he calls demonic,
Oh, wow.
leading to destructive stuff if it's not channeled properly.
So like a force for bad.
In a way, he even suggests some people might be born with a bad seed.
A bad seed. So some people are just destined for evil. That seems a little harsh, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely a controversial idea.
Yeah.
And while Hillman explores it, he's careful to say it's not black and white. He believes even those predisposed to darkness still have choices.
Okay.
They can redirect those destructive impulses.
So it's not about labeling someone good or evil.
No.
It's about recognizing we all have this complex inner world, and the Daimon can manifest in different ways.
Exactly. He uses Hitler as an example, saying his charisma, his focus, even his pull on people were all a Daimon gone wrong.
Wow. That's a chilling example.
It is. But Hillman also points out that Hitler's early life was full of trauma and rejection.
Which probably shaped how his Daimon developed.
Exactly. So it's not about blaming everything on our parents or our past, but understanding how nature and nurture work together.
It's a reminder that we have a say in how we respond to things.
That's right. We have the power to shape our own destinies.
This whole conversation is making me think about free will and destiny. Is Hillman saying we have no control, that we're all just puppets of our Daimon?
Not at all. He believes in choice.
Okay.
But he's also acknowledging there are deeper forces at work, influences we might not be aware of. He's asking us to consider that maybe our lives are unfolding according to a deeper pattern.
Guided by that acorn we've had since birth.
Exactly.
But what about people who say Hillman's acorn theory is too mystical, or that it takes away our free will? What does he say to that?
He gets that his ideas won't click with everyone. And that's fine. He's not trying to force a belief system on anyone,
Okay.
just offering a different way of seeing ourselves and what we're capable of.
A new perspective.
Yeah. He encourages us to be open to the idea that there might be more to life than what we can see.
To embrace the mystery.
Exactly.
So even if we're not totally on board with the acorn idea, there's still value in what Hillman's saying.
Oh, tons. He wants us to be more in touch with ourselves, listen to our intuition, find good mentors. He's also challenging us to question societal pressures, to embrace what makes us unique and strive for a life that feels authentic.
That's pretty inspiring. So are you saying we should all quit our jobs and follow our bliss, even if that means, like, becoming a professional mime?
Well, it's not always about making huge changes. Sometimes it's about finding ways to bring more of your true self into your current life.
Okay.
Maybe exploring a hobby, taking a class, or even just talking to your boss about different responsibilities.
Finding that balance. Honoring your daemon, but also being realistic.
Exactly. Finding that sweet spot where your inner world and outer world align.
Yeah.
A life that's fulfilling and sustainable.
And that sweet spot probably looks different for everyone.
Absolutely. That's what makes it so interesting. It's this ongoing process of self-discovery, figuring out who we are and what we're meant to do.
It's like Hillman's giving us permission to be more curious about ourselves, to explore our interests, trust that there's a deeper purpose, even if we don't fully get it yet.
He wants us to embrace that mystery, approach life with a sense of wonder and possibility.
This whole conversation has been really eye-opening. I think I need to revisit the soul's code with all these new insights. You know what's really cool about this acorn theory? Hillman's giving us permission to just be ourselves, embrace our quirks, the things that make us unique, even if they don't make sense to everyone else.
It's about more than fitting in or chasing success, right?
Exactly. Like
Yeah.
there's this deeper yearning inside all of us to live a life that's true to who we really are.
Guided by that inner compass, what Hillman calls the Daimon.
And whether we call it our acorn, our daemon, our calling,
Or just our purpose.
recognizing that inner drive can totally change how we see our lives, our work, our relationships, even just how satisfied we feel overall.
Hillman's basically saying a good life isn't just about checking off boxes or making a ton of money.
Right.
It's about tapping into that potential that we all have, just waiting to be unleashed.
So it's about finding that path where our individual acorn can grow, not just trying to fit in.
Exactly. He'd say if we ignore our Damon's call, we risk living this life of quiet desperation.
Feeling like something's missing, even if everything looks great on the outside.
It's like all those people who seem to have it all, the career, the family, the stuff, but they're not happy.
Maybe they're living in that exile Hillman talks about,
Yeah.
disconnected from their true selves.
It's definitely possible. A good reminder that real fulfillment comes from within, not from what we achieve externally.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Hillman's The Soul's Code, I want to go back to that question you asked earlier. If mediocrity doesn't matter to the soul, what does that say about the potential each of us has, the potential waiting to be discovered?
It's a big question, and I hope it sticks with our listeners. Hillman wants us to reject that idea of just going through the motions.
To embrace the possibility of something extraordinary.
A life that's truly in tune with our unique calling.
It's like a call to adventure, exploring those hidden parts of ourselves, finding those talents and passions that have been buried for too long.
And even when the path is unclear, even when we hit bumps along the way,
The journey itself is where the real magic happens.
it's about being open to the unknown, trusting that inner acorn to lead us towards our own unique destiny.
That's a beautiful thought, and I think it speaks to everyone, no matter where they are in life.
But we all have that seed of something truly special inside us, just waiting for the right conditions to bloom.
So, to our listeners, think about your own acorn for a minute. What patterns keep showing up in your life? What are you drawn to, even if you've been ignoring it? What's your daemon calling you towards? And hey, maybe this deep dive will make you want to check out The Soul's Code yourself. If you enjoyed this deep dive, please subscribe and share your thoughts on this book in the comments.